When my clients cry, I know that this was a transformational session. I don't think that anymore. They could cry because they released something. But more importantly, the intention behind it. When I started out, I used to be like, hey, I really want to make sure that this client has this transformational session or amazing session or impactful session, different terms.
Impact is not the same as transformation. Release is not the same as transformation. Crying doesn't mean transformational. It means crying. you know, and every session, I'd say every session contributes towards the transformational journey that we're on, because we're heading towards a destination, and to get to that destination, I would say usually it requires a form of transformation. The client has come to you because they need to transform into something new in the direction that they're heading, and so you take them on this journey in a direction, and the process they go through transforms them over time. I think transformation is such an interesting word too, because there has to be a time component to it.
Daniel, and you are about to watch a clip from our free podcast, The Coach's Journey, where we help you navigate the surprisingly difficult path of building a coaching business by people who are actually doing it. And we go live, raw and unedited every week in our free Facebook community.
Coaches Nation, welcome to another edition of the Coach's Journey podcast, where the coaches journey together on this journey of building a coaching business and learning to coach our clients better and better. And today is a really important part of that journey, which is the journey of your client and the way that you take him through that journey and how to create that transformation in your sessions. And so taking a client on a coaching journey is a transformational journey. They go through a process of transformation. They go through a process of change, because all coaching leads to change of some kind or another. And so I would encourage everyone to think about, how are you creating transformation in your sessions? What does that even mean to you? So Faisal, why don't you kick us off and let's talk about, what does transformation even mean? Because there's so many different ways to look at this, and there's so many different lenses.
I was thinking about this before we got on the call here. And I was thinking about my journey of how that has grown, has changed, how I used to perceive transformation, what it is now, and how I used to think about it versus now. And usually when you're, if I'm sitting around coaches, they joke around about this stuff as well. As like, when my clients cry, I know that this was a transformational session. I don't think that anymore. They could cry because they released something. But more importantly, the intention behind it. When I started out, I used to be like, hey, I really want to make sure that this client has this transformational session or amazing session or impactful session, different terms. But the more I've done this, the longer I've done this, the less I have that intention. My intentions have gone in a very different place. It's more around, how can I show up better? How can I be more prepared? How can I serve this client better? How can I be present to whatever comes up? The intentions have shifted quietly. In fact, in my mind, I don't even think it's fully up to me for the session to be transformational. I think it's a two-way street. Of course, we need to qualify the right clients to be in that space. That's one of the conditions. But once you are, there are a lot of factors that are in that conversation. And even my phrasing has shifted. And I tell them, usually if I'm doing a coaching session, it's like, usually, and I will say, this is usually a powerful process for most people, but I never know what comes out of it. I'm going to show up as openly as I can, and I'm going to be here to fully serve you. And I hope that you show up the same way. My language has shifted around it too. When in the past I had this huge boulder on me that this has to be a powerful session, I don't anymore.
I love that. And I think one thing I'm taking away from what you're saying, which I also agree with, is there's different meaning to the word transformation. Like, people think about it as like, it's just this session. That's the transformation. But it's actually more of an arc. A transformation occurs over time, and every transformation takes time. And I think one of the things you're saying too is, if you put the transformation on the coach, it's the coach's responsibility to make it transformational or to make every session amazing. You forget that this is a partnership, that this is a collaboration, It's a mutually beneficial process that you go through that is focused on the client. And so impact is not the same as transformation. Release is not the same as transformation. Crying doesn't mean transformational. It means crying, you know. And every session, I'd say every session contributes towards the transformational, journey that we're on because we're heading towards a destination. And to get to that destination, I would say usually it requires a form of transformation. The client has come to you because they need to transform into something new in the direction that they're heading. And so you take them on this journey in a direction, and the process they go through transforms them over time. I think transformation is such an interesting word too because there has to be a time component to it. There's no instantaneous transformation. You might have instantaneous insight, but I also feel like the most of the work of the coaching journey doesn't happen in the session. The session itself is like this wonderful journey that you go on in a session, but it's when the client tries to apply what they've learned in their real life. That's when the real hard work happens. That's when the learning happens. That's when the real insights happen. Like, you get the insights in the session, then you apply them. You take away the things you've learned, you apply them in your life, and then you do that over and over and over again, and you're practicing new ways of thinking, new ways of seeing. That's how transformation occurs.
Yeah, yeah. There's this I don't know if I'll remember the exact quote, but Michael Neal said this even when he was talking about sessions that the most powerful insights that come up during sessions are not what most coaches think. A lot of times coaches are looking for like obvious signs, like people are crying or they're saying something that, oh, this really impacted me or something like, and those could be signs of that. But it's like some of the best most insightful sessions that I've seen are those where the client would stop and they say, huh,
Hmm.
that's it. It's like, huh. It's very subtle. You might not even catch it if you're looking for all the other signs. But a lot of transformation is like that, like you're saying in their life, is that it's subtle changes that add up to something big. Sometimes it's big, but a lot of, and this is why coaching journey can be a long process. It doesn't have to be. There are people that I've done one session with and they got exactly what they wanted, and I'm perfectly fine with that. And there are people I've worked with for years. There are people I've worked with for a few months. There are people who I've worked with for a couple of years. And I have clients who've been with me, I think the longest has been 6 years, close to 6.5 years, something. And a lot of times I wonder as a coach, even sitting on the other side, who's like, should I still be this person's coach? Should they not go somewhere else? I think about that, but so, clearly they are getting something. In fact, I was on a call. There was a client who renewed last year, and I learned this language from one of my clients who, and I think I've shared this on the podcast before. It was a 1 year program she was part of. At the end, this was right around the COVID time. And I didn't know this, but in the background, she had committed that she's going to commit to change the way she operates normally to be ready for what she was about to do. She was an inventor, actually, and she actually was registering her patent in the process, and she was trying to figure out internally like how she can show up better for the company she's going to build or the thing she's going to sell, whatever it was. She didn't even know what it was. So she went through a whole year with me, and at the end of it, we got on one of the last calls, and I thought that was a renewal call. And she gets on a call and I asked her, "What are you excited about?" She's like, "Well, I'm excited about graduating from your program." And I took about a few seconds to pause. Oh, I love that terminology. Tell me more. And she's like this, and it gave her a lot. That year was transformational for her. It was very impactful for her. But what she decided that that's all she needed me for, and I needed to be perfectly fine. So with this other client recently, last year when I sat down with her, I actually used that client's language. I said, well, usually I think we had been working together for 2 years, and I think we were in a place where she could pause or go in a different direction. I gave her two options. I said there are usually two ways I approach this. Either you're graduating from this program and we can celebrate this in this moment, or we can find out, see if we can I can support you further in a different area. And as soon as I said the second one, she freaked out a little bit, and that was a surprise for me. She's like, "No, no, no, I want to continue." Which I was like, okay, we can talk about that, but tell me a little bit more around what's been effective for you, what's been working in this process as we've been working together. So, and the reason why I'm sharing these stories is that you don't get to decide that transformation, your clients do. And what you might think as transformational might not be transformational to the client, aka crying or emotional outbursts or something else. But there might be a subtle thing for them that was hugely impactful for their life, and the way it has shifted their behavior and thinking and perception in their life. And you have to be very aware, present, and looking, listening, and be there to notice that.
It's such a good reminder, and I feel like there's a little bit of a metaphor here. Like, pretty much life itself is a transformational process.
Hmm.
Almost everything you go through can be considered transformational. That's how we get life experiences. We transform from when we're children. I'm looking at my kids these days, and I'm like, wow, they're transforming so quickly compared to what I'm used to in adults, in some ways, and in other ways, adults can transform very quickly as well. But like all of life is this transformation, and what we're doing in coaching, like I think we're kind of focusing on a particular lens for the transformation that this client needs. And yes, in some ways there's a transformation, to go to contradict my earlier statement. Sometimes there's a contradiction, there's a transformation that happens in a short period of time. It can happen in a short period of time. A transformation of what you see and what you think, or what you notice, like an awareness. But it's the practice of that transformation that creates long term evidence of a transformation, I think, as well. So like you might have that momentary transformation of belief, or of your view, but you may never practice it or change anything, and so your belief doesn't actually change in practice. So part of the process is becoming something new, and that usually takes action and practice and application. But I think one of the questions I wanted to ask about today is like, why are we helping? Why is it important to think about transformation itself? Like, why is it important for us to be creating transformations as coaches? Why do we think about transformation as important?
I think that's what we're communicating is actually not that important to think about whether you can give somebody that transformation, or if that's even in your control a lot of times. Then what we're describing, I think both of us are describing, is that this is what makes this really complex. Is this a two-way road? You're talking about two separate minds here. There is an influence process both ways that is happening. And not to mention all the variables in people's lives that are happening. There are times where I've been, you were talking about beliefs and versus practice. I've been working with somebody where not much has changed in their life, but their inner perception has completely changed. They're a different person internally. But
But that's a
because of the
practice
way
too. They can practice the way they see themselves, right?
they don't, it just changed. Like their lens completely shifted within the session. So that was transformational. Now, when you looked at their life, uh, where their life was, if somebody came in from the outside, looked at it, they wouldn't see any evidence of that they had changed. Only if they paid closer attention, not from obvious evidence. But then,
Right.
as soon as she got the chance, and slowly she worked on it in the background, but her life was exactly the same for the next 6 months, 8 months, and all of a sudden, you see the change.
Oh yeah, you're talking about external transformation versus internal transformation now.
Right. So the internal transformation was there, but the external transformation or change or whatever it was, it showed up much, much later on. And again, there are times where sometimes I get messages from clients from 2, 3 years later. I've been long enough to like get somebody will send me. So there was one client who I love this so much when I get these kind of messages. He sent a picture and a short video of where he was living. And this is like a couple of years later after we stopped working. I worked with him and his whole family, his kids, his wife. And I knew their whole vision, what they were creating. And he didn't even need to say anything. He didn't say much. He sent the video and picture. This is after a while, he sent me a message. And the video was of a beach area. It was a house there, and he all he sent was a picture of a coffee cup, like from the store. I got it. And I actually got emotional when I saw that because we worked through that whole process. And then I'm like, oh, it's like he said more in that video and picture than anything else. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy for you, everything. He's like, yeah, it came back walking from that coffee shop that we used to talk about to my house. They had to move state, go to a different place, and it was a complicated process. It wasn't even about living in that space. It was how they worked it out as a family because there were a lot of disagreements. There were a lot of challenges. They had to work out a lot of internal things to be able to go to that side. I wasn't even a part of that half the process.
But you're saying that you influenced this person and then they stopped coaching with you and then that influence continued because their transformation was
Yeah.
permanent, so to speak. They continued the journey on their own.
Yeah. So that what and a lot of coaches who are starting out, they might not because they don't have that view yet. They don't have the experience of it yet. So it's hard to communicate, but know that at some point the effects of the work that you do carries forward.
Whether you
Uh,
hear about it or not, right?
whether you hear about it or not. The ripple effect continues, but it might even be intergenerational. It might be long after you're gone. And I think this is part of the reason intuitively we do this is because this work has such an impact, possibly.
Yeah. When I think about why transformation is important, it's actually about that, the impact. It's because transformation is what leads to impact. And I remember there was when I was used to work in manufacturing, I got a chance to have a one-on-one with somebody three or four levels above me. You get those chances every now and then. So I had my meeting with them, went to the other building across the state, and sat down with them, and we had this whole great conversation. And the only thing I remember from this conversation was at the end where he says like, Dana, what is your job? And I started telling him like all the parts of my role, like I'm supposed to manage the team and the systems and all the stuff. And he's like, yeah, but what is your job? What is the job that you're supposed to do? And I told him many different definitions of the things that I thought I was supposed to do. He's like, no, your job, you have one job. And they're like, okay, what? He's like, your job is to transform the organization. And then it hit me. I'm like, oh, I get it. It's not just about doing the role. It's about taking responsibility for transforming the world around me. That's my job. I'm a leader who transforms. And that, really stuck with me for a long, long time. And I think the reason transformation is important in coaching is that you are helping people transform their world. And that can leave a lasting impact, as you're talking about, Faisal. And the way we impact the world is the ripple effects of the people we impact directly as well. And so one of the things I love about coaching is I can feel the impact as people go and take action in their lives. I can feel the impact over time of transformation. I've worked with somebody for several years. I can feel how different they are. And something I like to do is like, hey, do you remember like 4 years ago when we were talking about this way? How far you've come? Like, look at the change. And they're like, oh yeah, you're right. And just like noticing that transformation can be really powerful for people. Because it helps them recognize not only the value of coaching, like that's great, that's a great part for the coaching relationship, but helps them recognize their own growth and their own potential to change and transform, and helps them notice how different they are, which really like confirms the point about growth and potential. Like you can be something different, you can transform to something different if you commit to a process of change. And the coach in a client's life can be the one person, often is the one person who's committed to that process of growth and change for them, that they often maybe at the beginning don't realize they need, but over time they feel like, wow, I really do need to grow and change, and it really is beneficial. And so I think for most coaches, maybe they don't think about it often enough, but we are all driven at some level by the impact that transformation creates.
Yeah, for sure. And so for me it's become much more practical and simple, and I'll go back to and then maybe you can share how you set the intention for something like that for this to become possible. And I'd say for me, my intentions are very simple. Before I go into a conversation, into a coaching session, when I'm working with the individual, a team, a family, community, it's always, hey, how can I show up better? In fact, I have three words for all my sessions is serve, energy, challenge. And I repeat that over and over. Before I ask myself, how do I need to show up to serve? How do I bring the right energy into the space? And how can I challenge more to push them out of whatever might be holding them back? That is the intention. And then the other intention is, how can I show up better here to the best of my ability? I will not always be the best every time. Or how can I show up the best in that moment or in that day? And life happens to all of us. And interestingly, with all the variables in life, I've shown up to coaching sessions after a death in the family. I've shown up to coaching sessions after a birth. I've shown up after my back is not working. I've shown up when I've been sick, when conflicts happen. And so interesting that if you have the right intentions, almost nothing affects it negatively. If you have the right intentions. And my intention never is, oh, this is going to be the best session for them. I don't know. Let's explore it together. And that's part of the reason why I love coaching, is that I don't actually have to have the answer. I just need to build the container for the client to come to their own answers. And that's what I think makes coaching, actually, it sounds lighter, simpler, but it's actually fairly complex, because it's very hard to navigate sessions. And that's what drives me to be better. And then the last piece for my own dedication, I care about dedications a lot, is that how dedicated I am to this work. If I care about my clients, if I care about this business, if I care about the impact that I'm having, or even the transformation, then how dedicated am I to this work? Am I dedicated short term, long term? And what is the work I'm doing in the background to show up better? It's not just always this intention before, but what is the dedication that I have to the work that I'm doing? Like, do I need to learn? Do I need to invest in myself? Do I need to go to certain places to learn, to see my own blind spots? Do I need to hire coaches? Do I need to be part of communities? Those things matter a lot to me, because they all eventually show up in my sessions. So what would be those practical intentions for you that you've
I
set?
love what you shared, Fazal, and mine are similar. I would say my intention, when I do my preparation, my intention, it might not be as explicitly clear. Maybe so I could do some work on defining more clearly what the intention is. But I basically open my heart to this person that I'm about to get into a call with, and I've done my notes, looking at my notes and my preparation. What is, like, I remind myself what is important to them. I remind myself of where they're heading, and I think openness is a big part of, like, openness to whatever they need, and whatever they bring, as well as openness to the potential. Like, the word potential always comes to me as one of my words. It's their potential in this coaching transformation journey that they're on. And so, like, knowing that their potential is infinite, and how do we deploy that potential and the only way to do that is to foster growth. So these are all things going through my mind as I prepare for a session. And then during the session, it's about continually coming back to that openness. It's not necessarily you know a clear set of words, but, and maybe I could do better by having, like, a ritual or a prayer that I do before, whatever you want to call it, that to remind myself, like, you have your 3 words. I think I need to implement something more clear there, perhaps, but I know what I need to focus on, and I do that. Um, and then the piece that you said that I really really thought about just now more deeply was how I show up, and not just, like, how do I show up, how do I continue to make myself show up better, but there's, like, a whole separate set of dimensions around that, which is, like, what are the things, what are the factors that enable me to show up better? So, like, I've been focused on that across the board in my life, but also I think it just really feeds into coaching really well. If Are you sleeping right? Are you taking care of your health? Are you taking care of your food? Are you demonstrating a commitment to relationship? Are you, like, how are you doing in your own life? How are you maintaining your energy? Like the word energy is actually such an important energy across the board in your life. And I'll be honest, there's times where, like, my energy is not great, and I haven't done those things as well as I can. And so I'm always motivated, going into sessions. I know myself that there's a place for me to level up. And, like, that's one of the things that drives me to continue to show up better is the clients that I have in front of me, the ones I need to show up for. Aside from, of course, my own family and the life that I'm building and all the relationships I have outside of coaching. But the drive to show up better is not just restricted to coaching. It's like coaching is a great place for it to have greater impact in the world. But like showing up better can involve your business rituals, can involve your own routines and habits, can involve the way you set up your environment at home, the way you think about work. Like all the stuff in your life is part of you showing up better. So like you kind of like made that connection with coaching today, but I think it's even broader than that.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Uh, the one last part I'll share is the longer I've been on this journey, the more I've seen the impact of it on my clients, on their families, on their business, on their leadership path, on their community, the more it's pushing me to do better in business. So that's not disconnected for me because I often my biggest nightmare is that the business stops working and I can't coach people or I don't have enough time to coach people. And that's driven me a lot is that, oh, no, it's my job to do this. So I'm freed enough to focus on my clients, on the people that I'm serving, the same way that it's my job to make sure I'm there for my family, it's just my job to be there for my clients. And the only way I can be there and get better is if I actually have the time to dedicate to this work. And you cannot if you don't actually do well on the business side because you won't even have the opportunity to grow in this area.
Which
You will get
brings it
busy
back
with
full
something
circle,
else.
right? Like the transformation that you go through as a coach, as a person, as a business person is fundamental. It's fundamentally connected to the transformation that your clients are going through, right? And
Yeah,
so actually at the end of the day, it's like the way to create transformations in your coaching programs is to continue to create transformations within yourself, right? Like
yeah,
how do you continue to show up better? That's what pushes the needle on those results for you and for them. And I've
yeah.
actually seen that across, over the years in coaching. I've seen that over and over again. The better I get at showing up for my clients and for myself, the better they get at responding to the coaching.
Yeah, and this is why coaching is not a theoretical process. You can read 1,000 books, and if you haven't implemented it doesn't work. You could have all the language, you could have all the references, you could sound really smart. And I've actually worked with coaches like that who were really great authors, really great speakers. And I got in a coaching session. I hired them because of that credibility. They sucked at it because and later
You
on I
mean
found out
at the coaching part? You mean?
at the coaching element of it. Even though there's like I couldn't deny the fact that they were great authors, great speakers, because all that requires a lot more theory versus coaching is much more experiential.
Yeah.
Much more you won't even your own conscience won't allow you to coach properly if you haven't applied at least tackled some of the areas. And that's why I love this process. And it just we're gonna end this shortly, but it just reminded me it's interesting and I didn't think of it this way. But some of the hardest times in my business where I struggled and I was trying to figure out so many things, it wasn't, I would think that, oh, I need to make sure I have the business in place to take care of my family. It was more like I was much more confident on that. So it's like, no matter what, I'll take care of my family. I'll go find another job. I'll do. My motivation was more, no, no, I can't let my clients down. I can't not do this work because it's important. It was a lot more on serving my clients. And I had already, man, this is after I've developed some skill sets. I can always work in sales. I can always work in some other job. I have other skill sets. But what I didn't want to let down was, no, 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 I need to do this because I'm pushing my clients to do this work. Why would I not push myself to do this?
The transformation is very personal, right? The transformations we
Yeah,
take our clients through, they affect us, right? And people think like I'm coaching them, but actually the whole journey is coaching both of us. Is actually the
yeah,
truth. And that's why it's like this mutual process, and it's never me taking you client through a process. It's that's going together through a journey that
yeah,
is focused on where you're trying to go. Um, but it's like so fascinating how it forces our own personal growth and development. It's one of the reasons I love coaching too. It's like if the transformation of my client forces the transformation in me too.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So, please, if you're listening to this, whether live in our community because we broadcast this live, or outside later on our YouTube channel or on our podcast platform, share what's your biggest insight below. We'd love to hear from you. Maybe there are things that we missed as we talked about this. We're just speaking through our own experience. Maybe there are other dimensions that we haven't thought about. Please share that below. We'd love to hear from you. And also share this with a coach that needs to hear this because I wish I heard these kind of conversations between coaches when I was starting out.
Yeah.
Um,
And if you want to join a community that can support you in your coaching business building, if you're actively building your business right now, especially, you may need support. Most coaches continue to build their business all alone, and they just run into problem after problem. We've seen that over and over again, and they get stuck and they wait weeks, months, sometimes years before they get support. And I wish I had a community like CMC back when I started, and that's really why CMC started, because we were all stuck. So go to cmc.coach, join our free Facebook group. You can get some support via that, and sometimes we do workshops, and sometimes we have people join our paid membership, and so those are all options available to you. But we're here to support you as a coach. So please share this with other coaches and join us.
Awesome. Have a great day. We'll talk soon. Bye.
Bye.